Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Welcome all the way from Nigeria, David, and he's going to be talking about...
What if analysis?
What?
What if analysis?
What if analysis? We all wonder about that.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I'm so excited to be in Bulgaria for the first time. As a football lover, Bulgaria is, of course, home of great football players like Dimitar Berbatov, whom I love so much, and someone like, Risto Strekov, and so on. So I'm so excited to be here, and thank you so much, Boriana, for the invitation. So my name is Abiola David. I'm from Nigeria, but I live in London. I work in London. And I'm going to be talking about deep dive into what-if analysis to drive decision-making. I've got a very young family, just 2 children, and a beautiful wife. So we're going to be looking at the what-if analysis and how we can use that to drive decision-making in our business. So, of course, I'm an Excel MVP, just like most of my seniors here, and also a C# Corner MVP. And, of course, I share content on Excel, Power BI, on Fabric, and other BI tools. So without much talking, let's dive into the what-if analysis tools in Excel. Okay, I'm going to come to this HR data, and then basically I want to consider this kind of data set to create 1 and 2 ways variable data tables in what-if analysis. Now I'm going to come to this data table worksheet. Now, the what-if analysis allows us to create different kind of scenarios or outcomes based on our business model. And then we can have different kind of results to choose from. So I want to see how we can start off by learning what is the usefulness of the 1-way and 2-way data table what-if analysis tool. Now, I'm sure most of us are familiar with what-if analysis. You can always come to the data tab. In the data tab, we can see the what-if analysis group here. And then we can see the data table, the goal seek, the scenario manager, and of course, there's also what's called solver that allows us to create constraints and so on and so forth. So I'm going to be focusing on all the 4 tools in the what-if analysis family category. So let's start off with the data table. And then I want to consider this example here. Now, let's say we are working in an organization, and in our case, we paid a total salary for the year 2022. We paid to almost 3 million, 2,910,350. And then we are looking at creating different kind of scenarios. What about if we want to increase the salary by 12%? How much are we going to be paying for all the employees? And what about if we want to see, if we decide not to go with the 12%, we want to go maybe with 5%, 6.5%, and so on. What's going to be the actual salary we're going to be paying to all our employees? Now, the 1-way data table can actually help us to see different kinds of outcomes that we can now zero in on. So let's start off. Now, it is really easy to use the what-if analysis data table. In our case, I've got the amount, the salary package spent in the 2012. So we want to focus on the 2023. So we assume that, okay, what about if we want to increase the spending by 12%? What's going to be the actual total package for the 2023? Now, we can go on to the data tab, and then we can click on the what-if analysis here. But in order to make it easier for me to access the stuff, I actually have it in my quick access toolbar here. So I'm just going to access it from this environment. So I'm going to click on that, and let's start with the data table. Now, for the data table, when I click on that, we're going to see we have 2 environments, the row input cell and the column input cell. Now, if you're coming to the data table for the first time, this might be confusing. You might be wondering, which of the input cell do I need to provide? Yeah, it is very straightforward. This is what you're going to focus on. Since we are trying to synthesize the percentage, that is the 5%, 6%, and so on and so forth. Now, this is listed vertically, not horizontally. That tells you straight away that in this toolbox, we need to focus on the column input cell. So I'm going to click in that column input cell as a one variable data table. And then I can go on and provide the value that I want to change. That's going to be value to change. So I'm going to click on this. Oh, sorry, before I do that, I'm going to cancel this. It is important we calculate for the actual for the 2013. So 2023, I'm going to come here, I'm going to type in equals, and I want to take the value we spent last year, and then I'm going to multiply, and then I want to get the 12% increase of the projected package. So I'm going to do 1 plus, and then I can click on this 12%. And then I can close the bracket for now, press enter. Okay, now in this case, if we decide to go with the 12% increase, that's going to be spending £3,245,041 as the total package. But we want to see different outcomes. What about if we want to go low? Let's want to do 5% increase or 6.5 or so on and so forth. So having established this actual for 2023, I can go on and select all this block of code of these values, and then I can click on the what if analysis, and then I want to choose the data table. So I want to focus on the column input cell. So I want to actually substitute or change this value here. So this 12% is going to be changed with 5% internally, 6.5%, and so on and so forth. So this is going to be the changing value. And then click OK. There we go. So we have different kind of scenarios for 5%, 6.5%, 8%, and so on and so forth. Now this actually creates different kind of outcome that we can choose from, and then decide to go with that outcome. So this is a one variable, one-way data table. Now let's see a two-way data table. Now let's just consider this little environment. In this case, let's say we have a company called ABC, and they want to see the revenue forecast. For the year 2021, let's say we are selling some cars. We sold 5,200 units, and these are the price per unit, 1,239. And then based on estimation, we expect to see an increase of 8% in the units sold in the 2022. So this is for 2021. Now, we want to actually see the estimated revenue. Now, what about if we are not able to achieve this 8% increase? What about if it is 4%, 4.5%, and so on and so forth? We also want to see if we can change the price from the original 1,239 to, let's say, if we want to reduce to 1,050, 1,100, and then we want to see if we can also increase from the 1,239 to 1,500, and so on and so forth. So we want to see the different kind of outcomes. In other words, we want to see the revenue, if this is 4%, and so on and so forth, and if this is reduced or increased. Now, we want to come to this cell first. We want to calculate at 8% increase for 2022, we want to see what's going to be the estimated revenue. So I can type in equal to perform my calculation. I can take the value for the price, and then I want to multiply by the units sold in the 2021. And then I want to multiply, and then I want to take the 12% increase, so 1 plus, the 8% increase here, and then close the bracket for now and press enter. So let me just increase this. All right, there we go. So at 8% increase of the units sold, at the same 1,239 price, we're going to be making roughly 6,958,224. Yeah, that is one outcome. What about if we want to see at 4%, or when the price reduce, or when we increase the price? So having established this calculation again, we can go on and select all this block. Now, this must be included. Okay, let me just take it from here. Anyway, all of this. So the calculation must be included in the selection. And then I can click on the what if analysis, and then I want to choose the data table. Now, this is a two-way data table. Again, we need to also understand what's going to be the row input cell and the column input cell. Now, again, it's so straightforward. We have the percentages vertically in column G, and then the price horizontally in row number 5. So I can start off with the row input cell. So I want to actually replace this original price of 1,239. And then for the column input cell, I want to actually change this 8% behind the scene. And that's all we need to do for now. Click OK. And there we go. We have different kind of the revenue. And then at the management level, we can look at these numbers, and then we can find the optimum revenue level that we can try to work towards, in. So this is one-way and two-way data table in Excel. So I'm going to go to the next worksheet. Let me come to this model. Now, this is just an example. I love cars anyway. So we want to see how we can create software for producing a car or for manufacturing the car. In our case, in column A, I've got software components such as infotainment system and so on and so forth. Now, in our business, we have what's called hours per software production. So we're going to be spending 80 hours in this example to produce this infotainment system only. We're going to be spending 41 hours for the driver assistance system and so on and so forth. And then we're going to be spending, in sum, 1,000 hours to complete all this software component for manufacturing this car, as an example. Now, in days, it's going to take 3 days, 2 days, and so on and so forth. So I want to come to this next worksheet, the goal seek. Now, the goal seek is one of the amazing tools also, but it does have some limitation. Now, in this screen, we have what's called the car software revenue and the cost estimation. Now, let me just explain what we have on the screen. On this side, we have the car software production variables that I want to actually see. So, in our case, we have, at this level, we produce 10 total software for our car. We are just producing 10 for now. And then we spent 1,000 hours to produce each software. And then we have 10 engineers, and then we spent 8 hours working per day, and then 5 days per week. And then we have the work week, and so on and so forth. On this side, we have the production duration, and then we have the salary calculations, and then we have the revenue and the cost. And they want to actually focus on the projected profits. Now, at 10% production level, we're going to be getting or making 54,986 as the projected profit. That is the revenue minus the total project cost. Now, we want to see this, business questions. We want to check, okay, how many software we need to produce to break even? In other words, for the revenue to equal the cost, so that we can see the the profit at 0. Now, we can easily try to adjust this production level for now, the software we are producing for now. Let's say I want to type in 12. I can press or just type in maybe 8, press enter. Now, at this level, we can see this is just 23,000 and so on. Now, I want to actually use the goal seek to actually get 0 projected profit. Now, I'm going to press Ctrl-Z to go back. Now, I can come to the what-if analysis again and click on the goal seek. Now, for the goal seek, we need to do 3 things. We need to provide the set cell, the value we're trying to achieve. In this case, we are trying to at least get to 0 projected profits. And then by changing what cell. Now, for the set cell, since we want to actually see the projected profit at 0, I can click on this cell E19. And then I'm going to come to the value box. Now, we want to actually see 0. And then by changing cell, now by changing the current production level, which is 10 in cell B4, and that's all I need to do for now. I can go on and click OK. And I wait for the goal seek to do the job for me. There we go. So goal seeking with cell E19 found a solution. Target value 0 and column value 0. And then we can say that, okay, for now, we need to produce roughly 7 software to achieve a break-even point where the revenue is equal to the cost. Now, this is very good for business because we don't just want to start production without looking into the possibility of losing money and the profits. So this is very good. But the problem with this goal seek is that we can't save this outcome, this result. We can't save it. And that is one of the limitations of the goal seek. Now, we can choose to accept the result, or I can cancel. Now, I'm going to cancel that result. I'm not going to accept, so I'm back to the original state. Let's see the second question. I want to check, okay, how many software we need to produce to achieve 12 billion projected profits, not revenue anyway, projected profits. Okay, so I'm going to come to this cell. I can just select this cell E19 and click on the what if analysis, and then I want to choose the same goal seek. And then this is going to be the set cell. I want to actually replace this cell E19, and then for the total value, I want to achieve 12 billion projected profits. So I'm going to type in 12 billion there. I can put in separator or not, but I'm just going to type in 000. Okay, and then for the by changing cell. Now, since we are focusing on how many we need to produce, that simply tells me that I need to focus on selecting cell B4. And then click OK. And then we wait. Okay, a solution is found. Let me just, I'm going to accept for now. Okay, and let me expand this. Okay, there we go. Now, we're going to be making 12 billion, and then we need to produce this units. We need to produce 774,269 to achieve our projected profit. Amazing. So we can work towards achieving the production level, and then we can, of course, get the projected profits. So again, we accepted the result, but we can't save the outcome. Would have loved to see if we can save the outcome, and then we can present all these questions to the management meeting, the managers, and then we can decide on which of the parameters to go with. So that is accepted. Let's look at the third question. Now I want to see how many software we need to produce to achieve 15 million projected costs. In this case, we are trying to spend not more than 50 million. Again, I can come to the projected cost. Now, before I move on, it is important that the value we're trying to change contains formula. It must contain a formula. You can see in the formula bar, it must be a formula, not just a static cell, not just a value. It must contain a formula for this to work. So let me just expand this for now, this column B. I'm going to come to this cell, the projected costs, and then I can click on the what if analysis again and choose the goal seek. So you're trying to target 15 million cost of doing business. So I can type in that value there. That's the target. So 15 million. And then I'm going to come to the by changing cell. Now, I want to click on the same production level. And then click OK. Now, at 15 million, we need to produce roughly 251 units of the software. So this simply means that we are not going to exceed the projected cost. Of course, because you don't want to do a business and then you exceed your budget. So you don't want that kind of situation. So this is our budget for the cost. And then we can see the production, and then it's going to give us the revenue of 3,787,608. So again, we can accept the result. We can't save the outcome. Let's just accept the result. Okay, there we go. Now let's look at the final one for the goal seek. We want to say how many software can we produce in 100 weeks based on the predefined parameters or the variables. Now, I'm going to come to this cell here. In this cell, currently we are spending or using 627 weeks to produce 251 software manuals. But I want to say, how many can we produce specifically at 100 weeks? So again, I can select this cell, that contains a formula. I can go on and click on what if analysis and then choose the goal seek. Now, this is going to be the set cell. And I'm going to come here. Now, we want to actually achieve 100 weeks. So I'm going to type in 100 as the total value. And then for the buy changes cell, we want to click on the current production level. And then we can click OK. OK, there we go. So we have 100 weeks achieved. And this simply we need to produce roughly 40 software in 100 weeks. So we can use all these results to drive our business decision making. Again, I'm going to accept the result. Okay. But as I've said, the goal seek is not flexible to allow us to save the outcomes. Now, let's go to the next one, the scenario manager. Now, the scenario manager is one of the, perhaps, my best in the what-if analysis tool. And it allows us to create different kind of scenario, and then we can also save the scenario, and then we can summarize the scenario. Again, we have the same data set. And let's look at this scenario. We are thinking of selling each, now for now, we are the price for each unit is £35. And we actually, we generated 2,000 units sold per each unit produced. Now, we want to say, what about if we choose to reduce the price from £35 to £30? Now, in economics, there's something called the law of demand, right? Yeah. As we were taught, they lower the price, the higher the quantity demanded, and vice versa. Now, in our case, we're trying to see, what about if we reduce the price from £35 to, let's say, £30? Based on market research, we discovered that there's going to be a 15% increase in the order. And then we want to also say, conversely, if we decide to increase from the £35 to £49, this is the 4. We want to increase by 4, from 35 to 39. Then we believe that there's going to be 13% drop in the customer orders. Now, we want to see this outcome. Based on this scenario, what will be the projected profit when the sales price is adjusted from 35 to 40, and then when it is reduced to 30, by 4. Now, we can easily create that kind of scenario using the scenario manager. Now, many people use scenario manager without understanding the importance of using what's called named ranges. Now, I'm going to show us how to create a scenario manager without named ranges, and then I'm going to show us the named ranges solution. Now, I want to focus on these two cells here. The price, and then the units. I'm going to click on the what-if analysis, and I want to choose the scenario manager. Now, in the scenario manager, we can add, delete, edit, merge, and summarize scenario manager. Now, I want to click on add first. Now, at the current level, the price is 35, and then we are doing 2,000 units. So we want to actually create the first scenario and call it the current price. So I'm going to come to the scenario manager. I'll give it a meaningful name. I'm going to call it current_price. And this is going to be the changing cells. The cell E4, E14, and 15, these two cells, the price and the unit. And then I can give a comment, but that's not needed. I'm going to click on OK, and I'm going to say the scenario values. Now, this is properly fine. So I'm going to click OK for now. I can choose to add a new one, but let me just click OK. Now, when I click OK, I can see that we have one scenario, the current price of 35 at 2,000 units. Now, let's see if the price is reduced by 5%. Then let's also factor in the 13% increase by customers. I'm going to click on the add to add the second scenario. I'm going to call this reduced price. And then click OK. Again, I can see the parameter for the current price. Now, I'm going to reduce this 35 by 5. So I'm going to get it to 30. So this is 5 reduced by 5. Now, we can actually use a formula in the next box. Yeah. I'm going to come here, since we are doing 2,000 for now. After the 2,000, I'm just going to type in equals. And then I'm going to come to the right side. I'm going to multiply that with, open a bracket, 1 plus. Now, since there's going to be 13% increase, hence I'm using the plus. The 1 plus. And then I can type in the 13% in there. And then close the bracket. So this is properly fine. You can use formula within your scenario value dialog box. Fine. And then I'm going to click OK for now. I can see the second. OK, this is going to show names and result of formulas were converted to values. Click OK. There we go. Let's quickly add the third one. Click on the add. I'm going to call it this increased price. The same changes cells. Click OK. And I'm going to increase this from 35 by 4. That's going to be 39. That's the price increase. And then this is going to give us 14% drop. Okay, I'm going to come here, type in equals, and multiplied, open the brackets, and then want to do 1 minus, since this is a decrease, I'm going to do 1 minus 14%. And then I can click OK. Okay, and then click OK. Now, let me quickly check the price reduce. I'm not sure. Let me check the price reduce. Okay. Okay, let me quickly create that again. I'm not sure whether I use 14% to 13%. I can delete quickly, and let me create that again. Reduced price. Okay, reduced price. And then click OK. So this should be 30, right? And then I'm going to put a equals here, and then multiply by 1 minus, oh, this is increase, right? Okay, 1 plus 13%. Okay, 13%, close the bracket. All right, so this is fine. Okay, 1, thank you. And then click OK. Click OK for now. Okay, so we have the 3 scenarios. The current price, when the price is increased, and then when the price is reduced. I'm just going to move this to the left for now. Now, I can click on the increased price and just click on the show. See what happened to the projected profit. When I click on the show, now you can see this is actually going to be giving us even a much lesser projected profit. That's when the price is increased. That's when we're going to be doing a lot of more units. We're going to be doing less of the units. I can also click on the reduced price and then click on the show. Now this is going to give us 33,000 plus. Now we can go on and summarize this scenario and then present to our manager. So we can see different outcomes. Now I'm going to go back to the current price and click on the show. That is very important. And then we can use the summary. Click on the summary. And then we can summarize the report into pivot table report or use the scenario summary. Now we can go on and use the scenario summary. Click OK. And there we go. We have the summary. And then we can present this result to the manager. So this is the current value, and this is the current price. And then when the price is increased from 35 to 39, we're going to be doing less units. And then when the price is reduced from 35 to 30, this is going to be giving us more increase in the units. However, this can be quite difficult to understand. Now, you may not actually know, is this the price or what? Now, this is when you don't use what's called the name range. So what I love to do is to create named ranges before performing this kind of calculation. So I'm going to quickly go back to the scenario manager. I'm going to select these 2 cells, the price and the units, select both of them. And then I can use F3, Control-Shift F3 to bring the create from selection. Now, my labels are to the left, the column name, so click OK. I can also do the same thing for the projected profit. Select the 2. Control-Shift F3. Again, click OK. Just choose yes. OK, there we go. We have the named ranges. I can go on and summarize that report again. Come to the what if analysis. Click on the scenario manager. and then want to choose the summary, and then click OK. Now, you can see there's a difference between these reports. In this case, we have a meaningful name, the price, the unit sold, and the projected profit. Now, our managers, they can actually understand the context of these changing cells. So that's why it's a good practice to use named ranges before you create your summary in the scenario manager. So we can look at it and then find the optimum price level that we can use for our business. So that's it for the scenario manager. Now, I'm going to quickly go to the next one. I want to see the solver. Now, the solver is the advanced tool for the goal sake. Now, the solver is actually not visible by default. To turn it on, you have to come to the File tab, and you want to click on the Options at the bottom here, and then you want to come to the Add-ins. In the Add-ins, you can click on you're going to see this Excel Add-ins. Just click on the Go. And then we're going to say the Analysis Toolpack and so on. Just check the Solver add-in, and then click OK. So once you click OK, you're going to see that in the Data tab of the ribbon. I can come to the Data tab, and then to the far right, I can see the solver at the top here. Now, let's look at this scenario again, and how we can use constraints in our scenario. Now, we would like to see if we can produce 12 manuals in 20 weeks, specifically 20 weeks, that will give us a revenue above 90,000. For now, to produce 12 manuals or software manuals, we're going to be doing 30 weeks. But we won't actually see specifically for the 20 weeks. That's going to be our target. Now, we have some 3 or 2 constraints there. We are looking at increasing the number of engineers. For now, we have 10 engineers working with us, doing the job. And then they're actually working 8 hours per day and 5 days per week. Now, I want to say, what about if we can increase our engineers from 10 to 12? That's going to be the first constraint. And I want to also say, if we can encourage our engineers to maintain their 8 hours per day and then at least work 6 days a week. Currently, they're actually working 5 days a week. But I want to see if we can persuade them. Of course, we have to compensate them to work 6 days a week. Can we achieve this target? Now, we can quickly demo that scenario. Now, I want to focus on this one. So I'm going to click on the solver here. This is it in my quick analysis. Okay. Now, in the solver parameter dialog box, it looks a little bit busy, but it's actually easy to understand. Now, the first is the set objective. That's what we're trying to achieve. It's like the total value in the goal sake, the set objective. So for the set objective, we want to actually click on this cell for the calculated duration. And I'm going to move this up a little bit. And then we want to actually choose. We can choose either the max, mean, or we can choose a specific objective. Now, I'm going to turn on this value off. Since our target is 20 weeks, so I'm going to type in 20 weeks in that cell. Okay, 20 weeks. And then I'm going to come to the by changing variable cells. Now, I want to actually modify our engineer, the 10, and then the number of hours and the days we are working. So I want to select the 3 cells. Now, I'm not going to add any constraint for now. I'm just going to click on solve at the bottom. And I'm going to wait. There we go. Solver found a solution. Amazing. Now, based on this solution we have here, we can see that our projected profit is now in the negative, which is terrible. Of course, it doesn't make sense to have a negative revenue profit. Now, the amazing part of this solver is that we can actually save that particular scenario so that we can present to our manager so that they can see all outcomes. So I can click on Save Scenario. Now, the solver integrates perfectly with the scenario manager. Yes. So I'm going to click on Save Scenario. And then I'm going to move this to the right side. So I'm going to call this 20 weeks production. That's going to be the scenario name, 20 weeks production. Okay, and then click OK. Now, that's saved. I can choose to keep the solver solution or to restore to the status quo. So I'm going to restore back to the original values. So I'm going to check this box. And then I'm not going to do anything for the return to solver parameters. Just click OK. So that is saved. We can go to the what if analysis and click on the scenario manager, and then we're going to see that scenario saved perfectly. That is one outcome. Now, I'm going to go ahead. Now, at the current level, we are producing 12 manuals at 30 weeks. Again, I can choose to save this result on one side. So I'm going to click on Add Scenario. I'm going to call this 30 weeks production. And then click OK. Now, I can see all the values. Just go ahead and click OK. And we have the 20 weeks and the 30 weeks production. I'm going to close this for now and return to the solver parameter. Now, back to the solver parameter, we can go on and implement our constraints. Now, we can increase from 10 engineers to 12. That's one of the first constraints. So I'm going to click on Add Constraint. And then for the cell reference, I'm going to reference this cell that contains the 10. And then we need to specify the comparative operators. Now, in this case, we're trying to do either less than or equal to. Now, we are trying to do maximum of 12. That's going to be less than or equal to 12. And then I'm going to click Add. Now, for the second constraint, we want to actually make sure that they actually work 8 hours. All things being equal. So for the cell reference, I'm going to click on the cell B7, and then it's going to be less than or equal to the 8 hours they are actually working for now. And I want to add one more. And then for the last one, we want to actually see if we can increase from 5 days to 6 days per week. So I'm going to click on the 5 in cell B8, and then in the constraints, I'm going to type in 6 and click OK. So we have 3 constraints. And then we can go on and execute the solve. Go on and see the result. So I'm going to click on solve now. OK, there we go. Solver could not find a visible solution. Now, sometimes you're going to get a solution, sometimes no solution. OK. Now, I'm going to move this to one side. Let me just move this to one side. Now, this gave us the 12 engineers, and then the 8, and then the 6 hours, based on the constraint we defined. Now, this simply means we can produce the 12 hours when all this value increase at 21 weeks. Again, I can save this scenario. Of course, this is going to give us a negative profit. I can go on and save this scenario. So I'm going to click on Save. And call this 21 weeks production. So 21 weeks production. OK, and then click OK. Now, I'm not going to accept the result. I'm going to click on Restore Original Values. Click on that. And then I want to return to the Solver Parameter dialog box. So I'm going to check, go to the dialog box, Parameters dialog box, and click OK. So I'm back to the solver front end, and I can see the standard, the same original values. Now, since our goal is to achieve 12 manuals at 20 weeks and ensure that I want to generate at least 190,000 profits, I can come back to the set value and replace that E6 with the cell E19 that contains our projected profit. And then I'm going to click on this max. So I want to see the maximum profit we can achieve, the max that we can achieve. So I'm going to choose max with a constraint maintained. Click Solve. Amazing. There we go. So we can see that, yes, we are able to achieve more than 190,000 profits. But this is going to be at a cost. I'm going to move this to the one side now. Say, now this simply means, based on the constraint we defined, and the target profit of 190,000 or more, we're going to be spending not 20 weeks, but solid 42 weeks to produce the 12 manuals. So this is what Solver can do for us. Now, I can go on and save this scenario. And I'm going to call this 42 weeks production. OK? And then click OK. Now, this time I'm going to accept, I'm going to keep the solution and uncheck return to the solver parameter dialog box, and then click OK. There we go. We have the solution. Now, we can go on and summarize all those outcomes into the summary dialog box. Again, I can come to the what if analysis, and then I want to choose scenario manager, and then I can go on and summarize. Click on the summary, and then we can summarize into a pivot table or summary. Let's go to the summary. Click OK. And then we have the outcome. Amazing. Now, of course, I could have actually applied named ranges, but to save some time, you can always apply named ranges to all your parameters. And then we have different kind of scenario that we can present to our managers. So we can find the optimum price level based on the constraint and our target of 12 manuals at more than 190,000 projected profit. So that is it. Okay, so that is the scenario manager combined with the solver. Okay, may I know how many minutes do I have left? Okay, let me quickly, so I'm done with that. Now, actually, I intend to present on something else before, I zero in on this topic. I want to present on the brand new functions in Excel, such as the pivot by, the group by, and so on and so forth. But I couldn't get those functions in my, Excel before I zero in on the what if analysis. But let me quickly, maybe under 5 minutes or less. I want to come to this more here. Now let's look at this scenario. Now in this case, I want to actually show us how we can use filter, and then how we can also create running total based on a filtered result. In our case, I've got this data that contains the date, year, month, product, and so on and so forth. And of course, the data is stored in an Excel table called data table. Now, specifically, we want to filter this result to only see all the totals, the sales amount that is between 500 and 300. 2 conditions. And then we want to return specifically these 4 columns. And they want to create a running total based on the filtered results. I'm going to come to this and type in the filter function. Anyway, that's one of my favorite functions in Excel, filter. I can select the data from this angle from the top. I want to put in a comma. Now, since we have 2 conditions, so I'm going to open a bracket for the first condition or criteria. I want to check for the include argument, hey, this sales amount column, are you greater than or equal to 500 since we are performing the between operation? And then I want to close the bracket for the first condition. And then I want to multiply and open the bracket for the second condition. And I want to check the same sales amount. Are you less than or equal to 300? And then I can close the bracket for the condition, the include, and then for the filter, and press enter for now. Oh, okay. Oh, something is blocking. All right. So, okay, there we go. Now, this gave us the filtered result for the data set, but this returned all the columns. But we want to return 4 columns, and then want to calculate the running total in column N. I'm going to come to the same calculation here. This is a dynamic array. It's spilled to the neighboring columns and the rows. I can come to the formula bar and wrap an extra filter function there. Filter function. And then for the array argument, the innermost filter is going to be the input value, the innermost filter. And then I'm going to come to the other side, the right side, and put in a comma. For the include, now, since I'm focusing on 4 columns, the date, products, payment types, and sales amounts. So I'm going to use the count if function to check whether these 4 columns are in the original headers. So I'm going to type in for the include, I'm going to type in the count if function. All right. And then for the criteria, the range, I want to select these original columns. I'm sorry, the columns in the results, and then comma. So I want to check in the original columns at the top here. And I can close the bracket for the count if, and then I can close the bracket for the outermost filter. When I press enter, boom, amazing. Cool. So we have the 4 columns returned. And of course, it's dynamic. If I change this payment type to, let's say, price, everything changes in that column K. All right, that is one part of the problem solved. Now, I want to actually sort, since I want to create running total with the same single formula based on the date column in column J, I'm going to apply sort function in the formula bar, and then I'm going to come to the right side and put in a comma. So for the sort index, that's going to be the very first column anyway, the date column. So I can put in a comma to skip that. And then for the sort order, now I want to sort in ascending order. So I'm going to choose that one. I can close the bracket for the sort function and press enter. So we can see all the date for the transaction, 1st of January 2015, and so on and so forth downwards. Now, we want to see how we can create a running total of this value. Now, I'm going to apply the currency formatting quickly, Ctrl-Shift-4. So we want to create running total of all these, our filtered sales amounts. Again, I can come to the same cell, and then I can wrap the whole thing in the let function. So I'm going to type in let function, and I'm going to press the tab key. I can indent the code by pressing the Alt-Enter, as Alan told us. I can Ctrl-Shift-U to expand the formula bar. So there we go. Now, for the let, I'm going to give a name for the name one. So I'm going to call this, before I go on. Okay, now I want to actually apply one more filter to the filtered result. I want to see all the transactions where the year is equal to 2015. So I'm going to come back here, and technically I'm going to come to this environment, all right, and then multiply it, open another bracket, all right, and I'm going to come into the brackets. So for the third criteria, I want to check the year, whether it is equal to 2015. So we want to actually zero in on 2015 and press enter. So this is going to be 2015. Okay, lovely. Now I can go on and use the let function. So the let function. And then I'm going to press Alt-Enter. Okay, so for the name, I'm going to call this, let me just go back. I'm going to call this filtered 2015 results. You can give any name and put in a comma. Now, for the value, we're actually assigning all the sort into that filtered 2015 result. And I'm going to come to the other side and put in a comma. For the name tool, I'm going to call this running total. Running total. Okay. And put in a comma. I can also, indent this to make it easier to read. Alt-Enter. And I'm going to come here. So for the running total, now I want to stack horizontally the filtered 2015 results. And then I want to stack the running total. So I'm going to use the HStack function. So this allows me to stack arrays horizontally. So for the array one, I want to call what the filtered 2015 result is delivering. So I'm going to call the filtered 2015. That's going to be the array one. I want to put in a comma. And then for the array two, now I want to actually calculate the running total. So I can use the brand new scan function. Scan. Now the scan function basically scans an array by applying a lambda function to each value and returns an array that has each intermediate value. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, let me quickly round off. Okay, and then for the scan, for the initial value, I'm going to set that to 0, and then I want to put in a comma. Now, for the array, I'm going to use the choose_cos function. Now, the choose_cos allows you to choose a column. So, for the array, I want to choose a column, the total column, in the filtered 2015 result. So I'm going to call it 2015 filtered result. Okay? And then I want to put in a comma. For the column number, I want to choose the fourth column, the sales amount column. I'm going to type in 4. And then I want to close the bracket for the choose_cos. And back to the scan, I want to put in a comma. And then for the function, I want to use the sum function. Okay. Close the bracket for the HStack. I'm going to close the bracket for the HStack. And then I'm back to the let. And I want to put in a comma. So for my final calculation, I'm going to just call the running total. So running total, and then close the bracket. And then this is the moment of truth. I can go on and Control-Enter to commit. And this is our running total. Amazing. So we can see we have 59,000. So addition of these two give us this value, and so on and so forth. So this is how we can generate a cumulative running total based on a filtered result in Excel. So thank you so much. Any questions?
Thank you, David.